Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. This is exactly what I am always going on about, how absolutely nothing is off limits when it comes to what Democrats are willing to politicize. Literally anything. We've seen them politicize tragic events, a terrible pandemic. We've seen them multiple times politicize children and of course the loss of children. You know, for the party or the people who are always going on about unity and divisiveness, and just how fractured the country is thanks to Donald Trump, they sure do use a lot of divisive issues as political cudgels. And here we go, here's another one. As a relatively strong hurricane is about to hit the state of Florida, guess what Democrats are doing? They're politicizing the hurricane about to hit Florida in an effort to get elected and to attack Republicans. Who would have seen that one coming? These Democrat clowns are unbelievable. You know, it's moments like these that could actually bridge the gap that could bring both sides together. These are moments that should be truly bipartisan, just like the pandemic should have been. Yet the cynical Democrats continue to politicize as they declare all-out war on the Republican Party, and so every issue becomes a political cudgel, every issue becomes a weapon. It's the continued weaponization of literally everything in order to win at politics. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, take a look at this right over here. Senator Klobuchar suggests voting for Democrats will stop hurricanes.
That's why we've got to win this midterm. We just did something about climate change for the first time in decades. That's why we've got to win this as that hurricane bears down on Florida. We got to win in the midterms. We understand that, but none of that has stopped us from deciding we're going to put our differences aside and get some things done.
Quote, "We've got to win this as that hurricane bears down on Florida." Now, the hyperpartisanship and the divisiveness and the ridiculous attacks seem to see no bounds coming from the left, but also the absolute sheer level of stupidity and incompetence match the sheer levels of shamelessness. I mean, to even suggest something like this, vote for Democrats because the bills that we sign into law will stop natural disasters. I mean, it almost sounds like a veiled threat. Vote for us or you stand at risk of losing your home to a natural disaster. How utterly ridiculous and utterly stupid. In what universe ever has Democrat legislation, or frankly any government legislation, solved a complex scientific problem, dilemma, or issue? The answer is probably never. Governments can render service, I mean, that's one thing, but the idea that giving government more tax dollars is going to solve these complex scientific issues that we don't even have full understanding of, frankly, we don't even have close to full understanding of, and the idea that government's going to take your tax dollars and just magically pick winners with their government subsidies is a laughable notion. And I specifically say pick winners because of this little John Stossel segment that I was watching just the other night.
We don't pick the winner in advance like the government does in research. The research funding agency says, you're a good researcher, here's money. We flip it and say, I don't know which of you 100 teams are the best one, but the one who achieves this will pay you. We only pay for success.
And I'm waiting for that great big check.
So Wendy Schmidt offered a $1.5 million prize for a faster way to clean up oil.
350 teams around the world registered to enter that competition.
We gave it our best shot, and we'll see what happens.
Some teams had no prior experience with oil spills.
We get asked all the time, we go, how long have you been in the oil industry? And well, counting today.
The top 10 teams went head-to-head at the world's largest oil spill cleanup facility in New Jersey, and 7 of the 10 teams doubled the pre-existing standards that had been used to clean up oil for the last 20 years.
If we get this pump working, we will win.
One of the teams that doubled it was a team that met in a Las Vegas tattoo parlor. I kid you not. You can't make up this stuff. And they built a scale model in one of the guys' pools. And it still doubled the ability to clean up oil spill from the last 21 years.
So for 20 years, they tried and they can clean up oil spills, but only at a certain speed. With the prize, you double it.
Actually, the winning team for the prize quadrupled it.
Why can't the Environmental Protection Agency lead stuff like this?
Well, they could, but they didn't. did they?
The idea that government subsidies are going to target the specific researcher or the specific company that's going to solve some of these complex issues, or that the government itself is going to somehow invest the money and solve these issues, well, it's not going to happen because, well, it's never happened. Or at least there aren't any major significant examples, because if there were, we'd be hearing them from socialists over and over and over again like a damn broken record. The fact of the matter is, it's yet again more fear-mongering from the Democrat Party. This is exactly what they did with the pandemic. Again, they were in this position where they should have worked with the administration in order to deliver results for the American people, but instead, they played games. They played games with people's lives. It was peak election season, and so clearly the goal was to use the pandemic as a political weapon to attack Donald Trump, and that's exactly what they did throughout the entire year. And now we're seeing the exact same thing. Something very interesting is happening with the current state and federal relationship that we're seeing between the Biden White House, the Biden regime, and Governor Ron DeSantis. First off, Joe Biden's administration has reached out to the state of Florida ahead of the hurricane, but they have still yet to reach out to Ron DeSantis. Biden, who pledged unity, calls Florida mayors before hurricane, but not DeSantis. Admin dodges questions.
But he's made conversations with the mayors, so is there any reason why not the governor?
Again, we have a strong team that's in place supporting the governor right now, working side by side with him and his staff. We'll continue to stay engaged with him.
We have a strong team, blah, 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 blah. The number one guy, the first guy that they should be speaking to and coordinating with is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and they haven't even given him a phone call. And that's because they're getting ready to politicize this entire thing. Here's an interesting take. Governor Ron DeSantis spent his first term becoming one of the most influential Republicans in the country, but he still hasn't faced one of the toughest challenges a Florida leader can encounter, a hurricane. Quote, fail a response, hard to get reelected, and your agenda stalls. Former Federal Emergency Management Agency Administrator Craig Fugate, who served as Bush's Emergency Management Director, said in a text message, do well though, and it adds capital to your agenda and sets you up for higher office. What I think the Democrats are doing here is very simple. They are purposely not working with Ron DeSantis because they want to sabotage this whole thing. They're actively rooting against the state of Florida and the governor of Florida because they want him to fail. They understand the political ramifications for him. They view him as a clear threat, a clear present threat in this election and in the next. And so why would they work in bipartisan fashion to put together a strong response to the hurricane and get the job done? Because that doesn't benefit them electorally. Politics is more important than American lives. And this is what we always see from the Democrats. They tell you that Donald Trump was such an evil and terrible guy. But at least Donald Trump was willing to set aside politics and directly work with Democrat governors throughout his entire time in office, throughout multiple health emergencies and natural disasters. That's who Donald Trump was. And ironically enough, throughout the entire pandemic that was used to attack Donald Trump, he was even getting praise from Democrat governors for how willing and how well he was working with said governors to get the job done. You know, let's look at New York City, for instance, and former governor Andrew Cuomo. Donald Trump was there every step of the way, sending military to their aid and immediately sending a massive cruise ship hospital to the state of New York, and every single promise, every single pledge that Donald Trump made in that relationship with Andrew Cuomo, he kept to his word. What was the narrative in the end? That Andrew Cuomo was the hero of New York and that Donald Trump was the villain. Well, as the timeline moved forward, that narrative certainly switched on its head now, didn't it? As Andrew Cuomo's real pandemic legacy came to light. And this is what I mean by the cynical Democrats. People who play electoral politics and narratives above doing the right thing. And that is once again exactly what they're doing. Politicizing another terrible event because of its proximity towards election season. God forbid the Democrats work with Governor Ron DeSantis and start mending the toxic political divide. I don't ever want to listen to another lecture from leftoids on the topic of division. And what a laughable notion from Amy Klobuchar, as if the solution to the world's problems comes in the form of Democrat legislation. Give me a break. Democrat legislation is exactly why we're seeing the current mess in the first place. It's all just so ridiculous. But that's also what I got for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel if you guys are up for it. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.